I knew something was terribly wrong the moment I heard the metal scream. It wasn't just a noise. It was a warning. A threat tearing through the quiet of Willow Creek. When I rushed outside, I saw Karen, the HOA treasurer, standing beside my mailbox with her phone raised like a weapon, filming my driveway as if she owned it. Her silver Porsche, gleaming like a polished blade, was parked directly in front of my house again. Same time, every morning, for 3 weeks. She never spoke. She just stared like she was measuring me for something I wouldn't like. My name's David Harper, and until this started, I thought I understood neighborhood politics. Annoying lawn notes, passive-aggressive emails, the usual HOA nonsense. But this was different. Karen's smile was too sharp, her silence too heavy. And the way she positioned that Porsche, perfectly blocking my security camera's angle, felt intentional, like she was hiding something. Watching me, testing me. On the 4th morning, I stepped outside early to catch her. She arrived exactly at 6:42 a.m., engine humming softly. She didn't even pretend to look surprised. "Property compliance review," she said calmly, though she wasn't taking notes or checking anything. She was just there, parked, staring. Something inside me tightened. I asked her to stop. She didn't blink. HOA authority grants me full discretion. Then she leaned closer. "And trust me, David, I always notice violations before homeowners do." That night, I installed a second camera, angled low, aimed at the curb. At 2 a.m., a motion alert pinged. When I checked the footage, my stomach flipped. Karen's silhouette stood in the middle of the street, staring directly into the lens, not moving, just breathing, watching my house like she was waiting for a signal. The next morning, her Porsche returned to its usual spot. I snapped a photo. She smiled when she saw me do it. "You shouldn't collect things you don't understand," she whispered before driving off. By then, I knew this wasn't about parking. Something else was unfolding. She had a reason, and whatever game she was playing, I wasn't going to wait to become her next HOA victim, especially once I found the scratched symbol under her. Porsche's bumper, a carved X, fresh, deep, intentional, and it matched the symbol someone had scraped onto my back door the night before. That's when I realized Karen wasn't just targeting me. She was marking something, claiming something, and judging by the tire tracks leading toward my yard, she had come far closer to my house than I ever realized. Subscribe to Behind the Hedges for more HOA stories. When I opened the plastic, I saw one thing. It had my name on it. Then a car door clicked behind me, and Karen whispered, "Too early." She was close. "Hooray!" Karen's whisper froze my spine. "Too early," she said, her breath brushing my ear like a threat wrapped in silk. I turned slowly, but she was already stepping back toward her Porsche, her eyes glowing with something cold, deliberate. She drove off without another word, leaving the street disturbingly quiet, the way a forest goes silent before a predator lunges. I looked down at the package again. My name was handwritten in thick strokes, the ink slightly smudged as if someone had gripped the box too tightly. The moment I lifted the lid, a rotten metallic smell seeped out. Inside was a stack of glossy color printouts, photos of me, leaving for work, taking out the trash, talking to the mailman. All time-stamped at 6:42 a.m., the exact minute. Karen parked her Porsche every morning. The last photo hit me hardest. It wasn't taken from the street. It was taken from inside my backyard. My blood surged. Someone had been on my property. Someone had been close enough to breathe on the siding. I marched inside and reviewed every second of footage from my new camera. At 1:13 a.m. the night before, a shadow slipped across the lawn. The figure moved slowly, confidently, pausing near my kitchen window. When the porch light flicked on automatically, they didn't run. They simply turned their head toward the camera and smiled. And it wasn't Karen. The face was broader, the posture heavier. A man I didn't recognize. What terrified me more was the symbol etched onto his jacket, the same carved X I saw on my door. Someone else was involved, someone Karen was connected to. I went to the HOA office that afternoon. The building was empty, the blinds half closed, the air stale. Karen's desk was perfectly arranged, pens aligned, folders stacked precisely, computer locked. But one cabinet drawer was slightly open. Curiosity overpowered caution. Inside were dozens of files, each labeled with an address from our neighborhood. Each had handwritten notes, pictures, diagrams of property lines, and everyone had that same carved X drawn somewhere on the page. When I found the file with my address, my pulse hammered. Inside were photos of my backyard, taken weeks before the man appeared. Notes about my routines, sketches of my house's interior layout. And then at the very bottom, a printed email thread. Subject, Phase 2. Harper is almost compliant. And below it, Karen's reply, he'll break soon. My skin crawled. Compliant to what? I shoved everything back and hurried out, feeling eyes on me even though the building was empty. As I stepped outside, a black SUV rolled past slowly, the tinted window lowering just enough for me to see the same man from the footage staring at me. He tapped his finger on the door. One tap, then an X motion. The SUV accelerated away. That night I didn't sleep. Every rustle felt like footsteps. Every shadow felt like someone waiting. At 3:08 a.m., my phone buzzed with a video message from Karen. Her voice was calm. You're late. Phase 2 starts at dawn. Don't make this harder. Subscribe to Behind the Hedges for more HOA stories. Then the screen cut to a live feed, her Porsche already parked outside my house. Only this time, someone was sitting in the passenger seat, watching my front door, waiting. Dawn crept over Willow Creek like a blade, slicing shadows into thin strips across my street. Karen's Porsche idled outside, exhaust curling upward like smoke signals. But it was the passenger who held my attention. The man with the carved X on his jacket. He sat perfectly still, staring at my door with a patience that felt rehearsed, choreographed, expected. My heart hammered as I stepped onto the porch. Instantly, the Porsche engine cut off. Karen stepped out first, polished, calm, every movement controlled. The man followed, his boots landing heavily on the pavement, leaving faint indentations in the morning dew. David, Karen said, folding her hands like she was welcoming me to a meeting. You were supposed to cooperate. Now Phase 2 has to escalate. I kept my voice steady. What is this? Why target me? Karen's smile thinned. This neighborhood thrives because we maintain order. Some homeowners disrupt that order, and you've been very disruptive. The man opened the back door of the Porsche and pulled out a thick metal clipboard. Except it wasn't a clipboard. It was a demolition request, an official HOA form authorizing property teardown due to structural hazards. And the address listed was mine. You can't be serious, I said. Karen shrugged. You should have read your bylaws more carefully. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. We warned you for weeks. The photos, the marks, the visits. You forced our hand. My head spun. They weren't watching me. They were preparing to erase me. Erase my house. Erase the problem. The man held up a small device with a blinking red light. Demolition crew is on standby, Karen said. One confirmation from me and they'll be here in minutes. My survival instincts kicked in. I needed leverage, something bigger than their threats. Then I remembered the files in her office, the maps, the photos, the illegal surveillance. I took a step back. Karen, I said slowly, I know about Phase 2, but I also know about everyone else you targeted. Every homeowner you marked. Her eyes flickered. The man stiffened. You broke into my office, she whispered. You saw things you shouldn't have. Exactly, I said. And if anything happens to me, those files won't stay hidden. For the first time, Karen looked unsure. She glanced at the man, who shook his head sharply, almost fearfully. Something shifted between them. Something fragile, dangerous. Suddenly, the man grabbed Karen's arm. He knows too much, he growled. We move to Phase 3, now. Karen tried to pull away, but he tightened his grip. Phase 3, I said. Karen's face drained of color. No, not here. Not him. The man reached into his jacket and pulled out a small black object, a detonator. My stomach dropped. You were supposed to cooperate, he said. Non-compliant homes are removed entirely. Karen's voice cracked. Stop. The board didn't approve explosives. The board isn't here, he snapped. He raised the detonator toward my house. I lunged forward, grabbing a fallen brick from the flower bed. The moment he turned, I hurled it. The brick struck his wrist, sending the detonator skidding across the pavement. Karen screamed. He charged at me. I dodged, grabbed the device, and bolted toward the curb. Karen shouted, "David, don't push it!" The man sprinted after me. I tripped onto the asphalt, the detonator trembling in my hand. He dove toward me, and I pressed the button. A deafening blast shook the street. Smoke, fire, shattered metal. Karen's Porsche flipped onto its side like a crushed toy, flames licking its frame. When the smoke cleared, the man was still moving, dragging himself toward me, eyes burning with rage. "You think this ends here?" he rasped. He reached for my ankle, and someone behind me cocked a shotgun. "Step away from the homeowner," a voice commanded. I turned. It was Sheriff Dalton, but his eyes weren't on the man. They were locked on me. "David Harper," he said coldly, "you're under arrest. And if you think this HOA nightmare ends here, you're wrong." Subscribe to Behind the Hedges for more twisted HOA stories.